Welcome to Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimen. This podcast is a space for inspiration, soulful insights, and meaningful life lessons. Your host, Kimen Peterson, draws from personal stories and powerful conversations with remarkable people to help illuminate your path. These episodes reflect his lived experiences and thoughtful perspectives, all aimed at encouraging you to live life with greater authenticity, joy, and ease. Your Inner Advocate is here to help you tune in, trust your inner wisdom, and move through life with more clarity, flow, and fulfillment.
Take a breath with me. Not because we're trying to get somewhere, just because we're here. Right now, we are alive. And that alone matters. Today's episode isn't about answers. It's about experience. It's about feeling your way through life instead of rushing towards the end. Because life was never meant to be rushed. It was meant to be felt. So the other day I was watching a reel on social media, and it was this interview. And there was a young woman, and she asked this young man just a simple question. She said, "Have you ever fallen in love with someone you could never be with?" And he paused a little bit longer than the average person would. And then he said, "Oh, yeah." Then she asked, "Why fall in love if you can never be with that person?" And his response stopped me cold. He said, "Why breathe if you know you're going to die?" That wasn't a defensive answer. That was pure wisdom. In that moment, it made me think about a bigger question. Kind of contemplate it for a minute, right? Like, what is life really about? And like, why are we on our rat race? We wake up, we work, we go to sleep. We wake up, we work, we go to sleep. All for maybe a moment off here and there. Why do we even bother? Because the truth is, we will die one day. And that's just the truth. It's not being like negative or not being pessimistic. The truth is, we are going to pass one day. So why even get out of bed? And there was a time in my life when I really felt this deeply, where what was the point? Because within me is this perfectionist nature. But I feel like perfectionism is kind of a spectrum. Like, my particular version of perfectionism wasn't like, it didn't lean towards the obsessive compulsive where everything has its right place and everything's perfect and everything's clean. And no, my version of perfectionism was, it will never be perfect, so why even try? Quit before you start. That was my version of perfectionism. And yet somewhere along the way, something shifted. And it wasn't a big shift, it was little shifts. I guess you could say even success or a successful life or a happy life, he's driven by a million little shifts. Like, overcoming your past is not one great leap, but it's 1,000,000 days or 1,000 days or how many ever days of tiny shifts added up to become a massive movement. So as I was listening to this, I was thinking, is life actually about the outcome? Is that all we got? Is the relationship, the goal, the job, the house, the car? Is that what it's about? Because if it really is about the outcome, what is the point if you don't ever believe you're going to get that outcome? What is the point in even trying? And that sounds pessimistic. And what I came up with for me, hopefully you like this too, is life actually about fully experiencing the spectrum of being a human being, regardless of how it ends? Because the truth is, none of us are guaranteed the ending we want. Period. There's no guarantee. I heard somebody say once, the outcome is not yours. The only thing that is yours is the process. The truth is, some dreams won't happen. And some goals actually won't be reached. And some love stories won't even start or won't last. But does that make the entire pursuit of all these amazing things, does it make it meaningless? Or is it sacred? Now, Siddhartha Gautama the Buddha said, there is no path to happiness. He said, happiness is the path. So, why breathe if you're going to know you're going to die? Well, we don't breathe because it keeps us alive forever. We breathe because it's what life is. We breathe into the experience. There's another question. Why even fall in love, knowing that you might get hurt? It's almost like the thought that loving someone you may never keep, that's foolish. But it's not. That's courageous. That's brave. Because in truth, love is not a contract. Marriage is a contract. Love is not a contract. It's an experience. And when you love deeply, even briefly, it changes you. Teaches you empathy, presence, vulnerability. C.S. Lewis said to love at all is to be vulnerable, because you're letting down your armor. And if we love only when it's guaranteed, then we never truly love. It's just a negotiation of safety. And one of the big quotes that really hits this year for me, and this is the thing about love, about allowing yourself to love, even though you know it's not permanent. So they say, this quote says, if you can't meet yourself at the bottom, you will never get to meet yourself at the top. And I'd like to adjust that a little bit. If you never take the risk of meeting yourself at the bottom, you will never reap the reward of meeting yourself at the top. Life was meant to be courageous. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It's taking action in the face of fear. It's seeing, yes, this could go wrong, and I'm doing it anyway. Then you think about goals. We treat them like contracts with life. It's like, I am going to go for this, and you're going to give me this. And I'm going to do this work, and life is going to give me this. If I work hard enough, I'll get this. Life doesn't sign that contract. But still, we're meant to try. Not because success is guaranteed, but because growth is. If you're going forward in life, growth is guaranteed. Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But even the shots you miss shape who you are. My relationship with goals are really, really cool. I believe in goals as a tool to move forward, to learn. They're powerful. And so I have a practice of making easily attainable goals, moderately difficult goals, very hard goals, lifelong but possible goals. And then I created another goal. And this goal speaks to this, like, why breathe if you know you're going to die? I have a goal that's so big, it's 100% impossible to get in this lifetime. There's not enough days. And yet I still set this goal, and I will still live my entire life working towards this goal within a framework of there's a potential of making it when I know I'll never make it. But what I do know about setting impossible lifelong goals, that if you actually set something that large, that huge, bigger than yourself, and you actually go for it, from the time that you set that goal till the time you pass from this earth, you will be in such a higher point of learning and life than you would ever been without setting the goal. So that's one of the reasons I breathe. There were paths that I took that didn't make sense at the time. And it was like, I realized in my 20s that who I was meant to be on this earth was somebody of service, somebody who would make a difference in the world, someone to support people in moving forward in their own understanding, enlightenment, growth, healing. That's who I was. And what I realized after doing a couple meditation retreats is that I wanted to be a monk. And so I set this goal, and there was a number of things I had to take care of, like my physical, mental, and emotional health, my financial health, everything. I had to start working on. So I started working on this. And as I was handling things one by one, and getting closer and closer to my dream and goal, somebody came in and kind of threw a monkey wrench into that thing. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to be a monk is because I hadn't had a relationship in so long that I was thinking that the universe was saying that that's not who you're supposed to be. That's not what you're supposed to have in this lifetime. Like, you're somebody to be here of service, and you need to do that outside of a relationship. And what that looked like to me was being a monk. But when I met the person who would be my future wife, I was deeply entrenched in this plan, this goal moving forward. And then she came along. And it was kind of fascinating because when I met her, she was in a relationship. She was engaged to be married. And right away, my thought process was, that's okay. Like, this is an amazing human being. Well, let me digress a little bit. When I met her, I knew I could be with her for the rest of my life. But when I found out she was engaged, I was like, that's okay. I'm going to be a monk. But I do need her in my life. So I'll let her define what that means. And it's funny, like I'd accepted the fact that I wouldn't be with her because I was going to be a monk and life had a different plan for me. But I continued going down the path towards being a monk. And I guess I failed at being a monk, but I succeeded at being a husband. And now my work actually is about helping people every day. So I literally got what I wanted. I just had too strong of an image of what it was. Should have lightened up the imagery and understood what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. So a little bit later on, I was wanting to feel important. I was wanting to be this important person, like somebody who had value, somebody who was a manager. So I worked my way into this job, which I definitely wasn't ready for, but I wasn't going to admit that at the time. I was going to make it work. And the stress became so much. Like I got this job. It was a high profile building, high profile manager. I was like, now everything's going to be great. Now I'm going to be important. And no, it wasn't. And the stress was so much, I ended up in the hospital and I left that job. And that's what got me here. Everything I've failed at has actually moved me closer to my true calling. But it didn't mean I didn't try. And it was probably the fact that I went for these things that I probably wasn't ready for or probably wouldn't have succeeded at, that I got led to where I am now. Because looking back, none of that time was wasted. And mainly because every single step has shaped me. And sometimes the path isn't about like where you're going. It's actually about who you're becoming along the way. There's this quote I love. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. So it's interesting. Are we leaning into process? Are we leaning into outcome? Because outcome leaves us this massive chance of disappointment. And even when we achieve an outcome, sometimes we're still disappointed. It's not enough. So I realized that in order to have an extraordinary life, I have to have faith in the process. And I believe this deeply. Whatever we are meant to achieve on this planet, we will. And even when something feels impossible or hopeless, we still need to move in that direction. Because it's probably on that path that we become who we are meant to be. And often that's where the quiet destiny waits, waiting for us. One of the greatest things you can do in this life is honestly trust the process, because one day it will all make sense. Because the irony of life, the ultimate irony of life, is it must be lived in forward, but it can only be understood when you look back. Think about that. And it's so true. Because sometimes we can't see how all the pieces are coming together. Think about a massive puzzle and you have no idea what it looks like. And all you have is a pile of pieces. And I know people who have a good strategy. They start on the outside, so they get all the outside pieces together and they slowly work them until they have the borders. And then they slowly fill it in. And the truth is, if you didn't have the picture of what it looked like in the beginning, you would have no clue until you got well into putting it together. You probably need like half the pieces or more before you understand what the picture is. And how is life any different than that? Or if you start considering, well, the other thought on that, right? If you have a massive pile of pieces, it looks impossible, doesn't it? It looks like it takes forever and you don't have any clues on how it works, how it comes together, what it's going to look like. But if you want to get to the end, you have to go through the process. And that's life. It's like they say, life is like an incredible tapestry. Like, say you had this massive tapestry. It was huge, but you could only see the back, right? And you would see all these threads hanging out the back in this completely random and like almost no pattern. And then you turn it around and you can see how things are starting to come together, but maybe it's so big you can't take it all in. And maybe you have to step back. And as you step back further and further and further, you'll see more and more and more until it actually makes sense. Life is a full spectrum of experiences. And, you know, people want to live some kind of an interesting monotone existence where they have they don't want lows, right? They just want highs. But the truth is, if you can't experience the lows, then you'll never experience the highs. Because life is a full spectrum of experience. It's not just monotone. If you can't experience sadness, you'll never experience joy to that height. So life isn't just about joy. It's about grief. It's about longing. It's about failure. It's about hope. And if you numb one of these, then you numb them all. The freedom is found in the feeling. You literally have to feel what you feel when you're feeling it. And you have to feel your way all the way through it, right to the end. If you avoid the pain, the fear, the discomfort, you avoid the depth of life. And depth is where life has meaning. Like I said, if you can't meet yourself on the bottom, you will never get to meet yourself on the top. So if there was a message for you today, I would have: keep loving. Keep dreaming. Keep breathing. Not because the ending is guaranteed, but because the whole experience is sacred. And life is not a destination. It's a moment by moment invitation to be alive, to be fully present. Because you're here. Hey, if this episode really resonated with you, share it with somebody who's afraid to try. Because trying is a point. Thank you for joining me again. Until Until next time, breathe deeply and live fully.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.